So yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Alin and I'm the administrator of the Digital Help Desk. And I'm also a small business owner myself on Manitoulin Island. So if you're not familiar with it yet, the Digital Help Desk is an initiative of the Northern Ontario Women Program, which is run by LAMBAC, the Laclush and Manitoulin Business Assistance Corporation, based here on Manitoulin Island and in Espanola area. The Help Desk provides resources and support for women-owned and women-led businesses in Northern Ontario, focusing in the areas of digital marketing, e-commerce, website management, and SEO. So we'll start with a quick demo of the Help Desk just to show you how it works if you're not familiar with it yet. So this is what it looks like when you get to the homepage. The address to get to it is up at the top here, nowdigital.lambac.org. So if you wanted to save that to kind of look at all the resources that we have available afterwards, and we'll also post the recorded version of the webinar on here as well. So once you're here, this is the homepage. This is what it looks like, and you have a few different options of how you can get information through it. So there is a resource library with a lot of different articles in those different areas that I just mentioned. So if you scroll down, or if you click into the resource library, you'll see all the different areas with articles. So I'll just show you digital marketing, since that's kind of what we're focusing on today. So if you open up that, you'll see different kind of categories of articles. So if you're looking for something specifically about social media or Google Ads, paid social, analytics and tracking, you can kind of look through and see what might be relevant for your business and what might help you. So you can kind of just browse that way if you are just looking for general information. But if you're looking for something more specific, you can enter a search term up at the top here as well. So if you're looking for something specifically on Facebook ads, you could search that in the bar at the top and it'll pull up any articles related to that. And if there's anything that you're looking for and you're not finding the information that you're needing, or you have a very specific question related to your business, or you're looking for help troubleshooting something, you can also connect with an industry expert in any of those different areas. And this is all a free service funded through FedNor in partnership with the NOW program. So when you get to this page, it'll just ask you for a bit of information to submit your question. So you would just choose which topic your question kind of falls under, and then that would direct it to the appropriate expert on our end. You put in a subject and just a description, so what your question is or what you're looking for help with, a bit of contact information for you, a little bit of information about your business, and then you submit the ticket. So once you submit it, you'll hear back from one of the experts within 3 business days, either by email, or they may ask to set up a call if it's a bit more kind of a complex issue that might be easier to talk over the phone or on a Zoom call or something. So that's kind of how the process works to get started with connecting with the experts. If you'd like, you can create a login and like a profile so that you can log in and see the status of your tickets, but you don't have to. You can just submit it as a guest and then you'll get email updates on it. So it's up to you if you want to do that. And if you're ever on the help desk and you're kind of confused about anything or wondering how it works, we do have an article here with just kind of step-by-step instructions, kind of what I just talked through, and screenshots of which area to go through for it. Okay. And one other thing that I'll mention is if you are looking for any articles in French, you can kind of click at the top right here and toggle the language into French, and then you'll see all the French articles as well. So yeah, we hope you'll find it useful. And if you have any questions or feedback on the help desk specifically, we welcome those. We would love to hear from you. So if you do have any questions just in general about the help desk or questions about the NOW program, you can kind of go through the process to connect with an expert and just choose other as the topic, and it'll direct it to me as the administrator of the help desk. All right. So yeah, now we're going to get started with the workshop on growing your business with Facebook ads. So before we do that, if anyone wants to share a bit of information about their business specifically, kind of where you're located, what your business is, your experience or questions with Facebook ads, if you want to put that in the chat It'll be helpful as we kind of go through the workshop. We can try and gear it towards any of your specific questions or businesses. So you can just put that in the chat box at the bottom if you wanted to ask any questions or things that you'd hope to cover today. And there will be chances for questions like throughout the presentation, and we'll save some time at the end for a Q&A session in case you have specific things that you wanted to go through. So throughout the presentation, it's up to you whether you want to have your camera on or not, but I'll ask everyone to kind of stay muted just through the presentation. And then if you have questions, you can unmute and ask them towards the end. Just to let everyone know too, the workshop is going to be recorded and posted on the Helpdesk site. So where I showed you the recorded webinars section. So if there are any questions that maybe have some like information that you don't want to share and have it recorded and posted online, you can just type it in the chat and I can ask it anonymously. Or you can submit it afterwards as a ticket if you wanted to connect with one of the experts in the team at Search and Gather. You can submit a question and they can kind of help you one-on-one afterwards as well. And you will be getting an email afterwards with the recorded version of the workshop, as well as kind of a written summary of all the key points from it today. So you can look out for that in the next couple of days in your email as well. Okay, I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. So I will pass it over to Nat from Search and Gather. She is one of the experts who provide support with any of your digital marketing questions. So there's a whole team at Search and Gather that can help with any of the questions you have specifically around digital marketing and any troubleshooting that you have. So I'll pass it over to Nat.
Perfect. I'll share my screen here for you guys. Okay, so let me know if everyone can see my screen, first of all. Yep,
you're good.
Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so we'll just start with a little bit of an intro into who I am and where I work. So my name's Natalie, call me Nat. I'm a senior strategist at Search and Gather, which is a digital marketing agency in Toronto. It's a little bit south of where you guys are, but we do help people all across Canada, the US, and internationally. So here to help you guys with whatever needs you have. At Search and Gather, we're really performance driven as an agency. So we care about data, we look at the platforms, and we try and make informed decisions based on the data that we collect to basically get the best results possible for you guys. So like I said, we specialize in self-serve platforms. So that would be anything from Google to LinkedIn to Twitter. But for the purpose of this webinar, we will focus on Facebook and specifically like an intro to Facebook. Cool. So what will we be going over? This is, and I'll just start with this, it's not an all-encompassing webinar that gives you every single thing you need to know about Facebook. That would take many hours, but this will cover the basics for you, and it'll give you an overview enough to get you kind of kick-started on the platform and start building out those campaigns, and then hopefully get some results for your business too. So what are we going to walk through today? We'll start with what Facebook ads is, and this may be a bit of a refresh for some of you. Then we'll dive into the elements of what actually makes up a Facebook ad, running a Facebook ad, and this component really is the structure behind it, the placements that are options on Facebook ads, and then we'll dive into the actual creation of it, how you can actually build on Facebook ads all the way from account creation through to the strategy, the targeting, through to tracking, which I know some of you have mentioned with pixel installation as well. The next thing we'll focus on is optimization. This is a really key one. We'll spend a chunk talking about different measurements, different metrics to look at, especially when making those optimizations. And then the creative testing aspect, which is huge, especially with a social platform like Facebook. I know some of you have mentioned your clicks may have gone down or your results may have gone down, and this could be an impact if you have been seeing it in the past couple of months from iOS 14. So we'll dive into a slide on that a little bit, give you some information as to why you might be seeing that, and then some tips on our end to kind of combat those changes as well. Perfect. At the very end, like Lynn said, feel free to write any questions in the chat or kind of save them till the end, and we will leave a couple minutes to answer any of your questions. And if there's anything you don't want shown, feel free to send it anonymously, or we're here after to help you as well. Perfect. Let's dive into it. So what are Facebook ads? Facebook ads are basically paid posts that you put on Facebook, and it's for different businesses to basically share different products or services that they're offering. And the best thing about Facebook is you can actually target it to different interests and different demographics. So in this case, I know some of you have mentioned like yoga. You could create a paid post, boost it on Facebook, and target it directly to people who may be interested in yoga or interested in services like that. It will have, you'll see on the right here, there's a little red box where it says sponsored at the top. That helps you identify an organic post that would be in your regular Facebook feed from potentially a paid post, something that you're actually paying for to get pushed to new people. Something about Facebook ads specifically is it's what we call at Search and Gather a push platform versus a pull platform. A push platform is what pushes messaging to people that may not be aware of your business, but are likely interested in your business. So it's something that if you're pushing a service or a product, the user that you're pushing it to may not necessarily know about it, but they could be interested in using it. So it's a great like kind of awareness, different platform to work off of. One thing interesting about Facebook that I'm not sure a lot of people know is because Facebook is or Instagram is owned by Facebook, you can actually run Instagram ads through Facebook ads as well. You can run in many different places on Facebook, not just Instagram and Facebook, but also on story posts. So that's the portrait version that has a 10-second loop to it. You can also post on Facebook Marketplace, Facebook Messenger, a lot of different options, and we'll kind of run through a few of the key placements later on in the presentation. This is also where you will set your like target audience, your budget, your timeline, and we'll dive into that in a second here. Cool. So now that you know what Facebook ads is, let's look at the elements that actually make up a Facebook ad. The one on the left is where we'll start. This is your primary text, and this is where you'll see the red box at the top allows you to share a little bit of a description as to what you're trying to advertise here. It can be about your business, it can be about what product you're offering, but we usually recommend keeping it to 1 to 2 sentences unless you're doing a checklist. This is a really great place to also use emojis as a tip. We find emojis can increase interactions on this platform too. The next one over is image and video. And like I mentioned, placements can be more than just image and video. There's a few other ones that we'll talk about. But for the purpose of this one, this is focused on just the in-feed, the regular element of a Facebook ad. This one is really important. It's really the first thing that someone's going to see when they're scrolling through your Facebook feed. It's what's going to draw them in to either see the primary text or what we'll move over to the headline as well. So definitely a key factor that we'll want to talk about during this presentation. In the headline, you'll see it's highlighted at the bottom of the box. This is where it's bolded. It says workout from home. And this is where you'll want to have a really, really short kind of call to action, but brief statement on what you're trying to promote here. So in this case, you'll see it's a workout video. It's very short to the point, workout from home. And we recommend keeping it that short because otherwise it can actually get cut off from the feed and then people don't even see what you're fully promoting. So it could be shop now, you could advertise 30% off if you have a promo, anything like that can go into that headline, that first thing you want people to see. Diving over, or sorry, before I go to call to action, you'll see right above the headline, there's a little URL. Here it says corebasics.com. That can either be a URL where you're sending someone when they actually click on your ad, or it can be a form directly on Facebook. You have 2 options there. The form is built in platform. If you don't have, for example, like a website that you want to send people to, you can just create a form and download leads that way. Or if you're more e-com based and you want people to purchase products, you can send them directly to your website and show that URL above. For call to action, which is the last one kind of making up the core elements of a Facebook ad, you'll see it's blue, and that basically is just showing you what that main call to action is when someone clicks on your ad. Do you want them applying to something? Do you want them requesting a demo? Do you want them shopping now? They give you, actually Facebook gives you probably like 10 to 15 different preset options there that you can choose from, ranging from whatever your objective is, from services to e-com. Cool. Just moving into the ads manager, I think this will answer some of your questions on where you actually work to build these ads. Boosted posts is mainly on the page. You can boost Facebook posts within your actual kind of organic profile, but through Ads Manager is where you'll see the most success in our eyes. Ads Manager is really where it starts. It's where you will run your ads, not only your Facebook ads, but you'll also run your Instagram ads through here and all of those other placements we discussed. There's a bit of a screenshot on what the main ads manager page looks like here, and we'll get into the setup process in a little bit. Ads Manager, it's an all-in-one tool. You create your ads here. You'll see the furthest right tab saying ads. It's also where you'll set your audiences under ad sets. It's where you schedule your budget that you want to spend, and you don't need a huge budget to advertise on here, as well as any schedule and your objective. So we'll dive into the actual structure of a Facebook ad in a second, right here.
Sorry, just before you get into that, I was just going to ask if anyone is not familiar with the Ads Manager, if they haven't used it, can you just let people know like how to get into that platform, like how to actually get to Ads Manager?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's leap back for a second here. We'll dive into it a bit during the creation process, but Ads Manager is something, and it can get really confusing with Business Manager as well. Business Manager is where you will house your page, you'll have your payment information, you'll have your kind of like user access levels, all of that stuff. A tab within Business Manager is Ads Manager, and it's where your ad account is. So I believe it's under, there's access, and then under accounts, you'll see an ad account. And when you click on your ad account in the top right corner, there's a little button that will say Ads Manager, and you can actually go straight into your Ads Manager account where you'll open to basically this exact screen here. And if you guys want any more clarification on that, I have some steps later on, but I'm happy to walk through that. And I know the help desk also has some great information on it too.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so campaign structure. Before you even get into the platform and we get to setting up the platform, I think it's important to familiarize yourself with what the actual campaign structure looks like. And this can also help you set a strategy when you are going to Facebook and you want to start a social campaign. So the first one is setting an actual objective. What is your objective? Is it to get purchases? Is it to get people to request a demo? Is it to get people to sign up for a service? There's many different objectives, and it's important to outline what your specific objective is before you dive into the actual account creation. So looking at the campaign structure here, you can see beyond setting your objective is the campaign level. And the campaign level within platform is where you will choose your campaign type, whether it's a prospecting campaign. I know some of you mentioned retargeting campaigns as well. The three main ones would probably be prospecting, retargeting, and loyalty, which is going after current customers. You'll also want to set your goal here. So is it app installs? Is it conversions based? Is it awareness based? You can set that all within the campaign level, as well as your budgets. The next one that you'll see here is called Facebook ad set. And I always like to, in my head, think of ad set as audience. Your ad set is where you will choose the targeting that you're going to go after when you're promoting your product. So this will include the demographics, this will include any interests, and there's tons of different options that you can browse within the ad set level to define your audience on Facebook specifically. It can get a little creepy, but we'll talk about different audiences later on too. One interesting thing and tip is that if you do have ad sets and you, for example, want to split out male and female genders, you can actually also choose your budget based off of that, not just at the campaign level, but at the ad set level as well. If you want to spend a little bit more on females than males, you have the flexibility to set that through the ad set level too. On the ad level, just going down to the red boxes at the bottom, you'll see we have two ad sets, usually two different audiences that you'll be testing against each other. And then the ad level, you'll have usually 3 different ads within each ad set. They can be the same in both if you want A/B test, or different depending on your audience to test within that audience. So at the ad level, this is really important. It's where you'll upload your creative. It's where you will upload the copy, like the headline and the call to action. And the primary text, all within that ad level. And it's also where you will choose that final URL. Like I mentioned, either going to a form or going to your website or a landing page, something else. Cool. So as I mentioned, Facebook has a lot of different placement opportunities here, and this is just a few. For timing purposes, I won't dive into all of them, but looking at these ones here, you'll see the image and video, pretty self-explanatory. You can either upload an image or you can upload a video, but there's a lot of other opportunity on Facebook depending on what you're trying to promote and what product you're going after. One of them being collections. Collections is great for e-com businesses. If you have multiple products that you want to promote, you can actually upload a catalog to your Facebook page. Similar, you can connect it through Shopify even, and it'll actually promote different products that you offer on your Shopify site or your WordPress site, and pull it directly into Facebook. So you could show, if you have like a beauty line, you could show your makeup brushes, your mascara, your any salon care products that you're looking for, and individual slides. Carousel, which is really helpful as well if you need to show a bit more of like a use case. If your product maybe isn't as self-explanatory as just showing one image, Carousel is really helpful for that because it's about 5 or 6 different cards that you can scroll through to see the different use cases of a product. It's basically just a ton of different images all put together in one ad. It's a bit more interactive too, so you can find that click-through rates sometimes improve, and we'll talk about what that means later for those that don't know, in a carousel ad as well. The slideshow is great. It's similar to carousel, but it could be used both slideshow and instant experience for more like hospitality businesses. If you are showing destinations, for example, and you're like a travel agent, a slideshow might be great because it's just images that will fade in and out, and you can choose those images that fade in and out. So if you have like different destinations that you're trying to show, you may want to show landscape, like beautiful photography of those different images in a slideshow, and get people interested in that. Same with instant experience. It kind of opens up, so you can add, it's almost like a blog post a little bit. You can add more text to it if your service needs a bit more of an explanation there. And you can also have different images on the page in instant experience too. Cool. So I know we talked a little bit about what it is to have a Facebook account and what a Facebook ad looks like, but now we'll move into the actual getting started on it and the account creation setup process. So what you need in order to actually get set up on Facebook is a Facebook profile. People get confused about that. They'll go right to the business manager or a business page, and they'll say, how do I get into this? You need to have a Facebook profile, and you'll also need to have a Facebook page associated with that. So a business page of any sort, if you are on Facebook, you can go and create a business page. I know there's really helpful resources on how to do that within the help desk as well. Same thing for Instagram. You'll want to have an Instagram account and an Instagram account connected to your business manager in order to advertise on that too. The next step after you have a Facebook page and you have a profile is to actually create a business manager. And I shared a link here. It's business.facebook.com, but you can also use this link after the call if you want, or reach out to us. Then from there, from that business manager account, which is kind of the house of it all, you'll have an ad account that you'll create. And so within that ad account, you'll get ads manager automatically. And that's that little right box that we spoke about that Lynn asked, where you can click on it from the ad account level, and you'll go right into that ads manager screen that I showed you. Step 4, you'll want to link or add your Facebook page that you just created and your Instagram account that you just created to the business manager. And once it's linked to business manager, you can add it to your ad account, and then you can actually run ads. So when you do run an ad, there's a little icon in the top, and that will be your logo, which comes from either your Facebook page or your Instagram account. The next is creating a Facebook pixel, and we'll get into it a bit, but tracking is super, super important, especially when you want to like accurately analyze any of your results and then make informed decisions off of that. So we'll get into the creation of that, but definitely super important to include in your account setup process. Step 6 would be verifying your business domain. This is a newer one. It's something that has kind of come about as a result of the iOS 14 updates that are presenting themselves. So I have included it as kind of an important step when you are setting up the process, but keep in mind it can take a few days to register after you've created your profile. Last step before you can kind of get started on Facebook is to add your payment method. Payment is something that you need because it is paid posts, and you will be charged on a click base, cost per click. So yeah, important to add your payment method there, and then it'll be connected to your ads manager, and you can get started on Facebook ads. You'll see I've included some more information below if you need help making a Facebook page or an ads manager and how to get started. So feel free to follow any of the instructions there. Next is going kind of back into that strategy and build phase. So now that you know what you will need, you can kind of get started into the actual build process. As we went through that campaign structure, you'll need an objective. You'll need to know how long you want to run your campaign for, outline the budget that you want to spend on that campaign, and then dive into audience targeting. And this is one area that you'll really want to get some background research on, get some market research, come in with a bit of an idea of who you want to target, and then use the options within Ads Manager to decide who you're going to go after to start. Now, it's not kind of a just choose an audience and leave it forever. This is always something that you can be optimizing. This is always something that you can be adjusting. And you'll see when we get into measurements, how you can go back and kind of tweak your audience targeting to get better results as well. I have listed a few different audience targeting kind of core audiences that we'll go over. And I know there's a lot of different managers. So I'll show you where the audience manager is, where you can actually build those different audiences and save them. For creative and copy, we've talked about that. We do recommend testing 3 to 5 different variations within the platform so that the ad has, or the platform has an algorithm that it can choose which one is more likely to convert and test the different creatives against each other. Last one, URL or lead gen form, as we've discussed. Make sure you have that before you go to building your campaign. So audience types, as I mentioned, there's kind of 3 main audience types on Facebook that are important to know of. The first one would be your core audiences, and you don't need Audience Manager to build your core audiences. This is something that you can do at that ad set level, ad set equals audience. So at the ad set level at S&G, we will use this to determine the age, the gender, the demographics, the different interests that are all kind of preset within platform, and you can choose them. This can be based on life events. It can be based on different behaviors within the platform. It can even go down to when someone graduated from school or when someone bought a new home. So you can get really specific with it as well, which is great. If you're okay with just running with just core audiences, that's enough to get you up and running on the platform. But we at S&G like to kind of dive into custom audiences and lookalike audiences as well, because I think it could really optimize your campaigns and kind of get better results as well. So a custom audience, different than a core audience. A custom audience is where you actually upload a customer list to the platform. So you will have a list of email addresses, first name, last name, and you can upload it in Audience Manager, which is, you'll see kind of 6 dots in your Ads Manager. And when you click on that, there's a button for audiences, and you can just start creating right away. When you upload that customer list, it will match your customers on that list to different Facebook profiles. So let's say Lindsay from Toronto, who went to a yoga class, is now registered in your system. You can upload Lindsay and 1,000 other names, and Facebook will connect that to Lindsay's Facebook profile based on the email or first name or last name. So that's another option. And it's really great to use that one if, for example, you're e-com and you're going after maybe people that have a promo, or you have an event where you want to retarget current customers. That's a really great tool to use. The third one is a lookalike audience. And this one can be a bit tricky, but also really beneficial, especially because of all these iOS 14 changes coming in. Giving Facebook as much data as possible to optimize towards will benefit your campaigns. So when you house the information within Ads Manager, you're likely to see better results as well. A lookalike audience is where you use that customer list that you just made and different customer information to find people who are not exactly them, but people similar to them on Facebook as well. And I have a little chart here that you can go through after, but basically when you upload it, it'll match the current profiles of your customers to people that are similar to your customers, and then target them directly. Now, one thing to note, and just a tip that we do on our end, is when you do have this, a lookalike audience can be anywhere from 1% of the population based on your location up to about 10%. We recommend sticking between that 1 to 3 range and not really going above that, because if you think about it, the further you go away from your current audience, the less similar they're going to be to that individual. So just try and keep it between that 1 to potentially 3% of that lookalike audience. Cool. Okay, so tracking, as I keep mentioning on this call, tracking is super, super important. It is what is going to allow you to actually report on your campaigns, see how your campaigns are performing, and then make optimizations and informed decisions based on those findings that you get. So As we mentioned here in bold, every successful campaign does start with great tracking. So these are the steps onto how you can set up tracking for your particular campaign. The first one is to create and install that Facebook pixel, and I showed instructions here. This will be shared after the call, so feel free to dive into it or reach out to us. The next one is create a custom conversion event or a goal. So within Ads Manager, as I mentioned, there's Audience Manager. There's also something called Events Manager in the same tab that you would click on. An Events Manager is where you can create a custom conversion event or a custom goal. And that can be on, it can be triggered on anything. It can be triggered on if someone submits a form and for one of your services and it goes to a thank you page, you can trigger that when someone reaches that thank you page, a goal is created. So definitely setting up your custom conversion goal, whatever your goal is or whatever that objective is key to strong tracking on Facebook. The third one is new again from iOS 14 changes. This is the aggregated event measurement. And what that really allows is to prioritize the different events that you have. So you may have, you may want to track someone who reaches the add to cart page, so you can see whether someone who add to cart actually made a purchase or learn a little bit more about the business there. But you may also want to track the purchase. So it's important to set your aggregated event measurement based on your different goals and prioritize them accordingly. You don't want to prioritize someone adding to cart if your ultimate goal is to get someone to make a purchase. So we can share more on that later. Facebook is a bit of a black hole on the aggregated event measurement at the moment. So we're happy to kind of dive into that if you have any further questions. The fourth one is optimize your campaign to that conversion event, as we just spoke about. And then the fifth one is setting up UTM parameters. And UTM can get confusing. It's basically a little piece of code that goes at the end of your domain or your final destination URL that includes some information about your business. So it will say, for example, UTM_campaign, and then you can put in your campaign name. UTM_medium, put in CPC. So you know it's coming from a paid source versus an organic or a referral, something like that. We can share a template for you if you're interested in that, but it is really, really helpful, especially if you're using kind of a third-party reporting system outside of Facebook directly, to know where not only someone converted on your campaign, but which audience converted, which ad converted, and you can get really, really granular with UTM tracking. Perfect. So moving into tracking and measurement here, you can see I've listed a few different metrics on the left and then a few different screenshots on the right. Measurement and optimization is super, super important, but I also understand that digital marketing has a lot of jargon that can get really confusing. There's a lot of acronyms. So I've tried to outline the main ones to look out for when you are reporting in platform. So let's say you've now launched your campaign, you're up and running, but how do you know if it's performing well? Look at these metrics. The first one is impressions. So impressions is basically showing you how many people have seen your ad, not necessarily individual people, just the number of impressions or views you have on that ad. Reach is similar to impressions, but it's the unique people who have seen your ad. So it's going to be less than what your impression number is. We usually go off of impressions, but reach is also something to look at. Next one is clicks. So that's the number of people that not only viewed your ad, but actually decided to click on it. So that shows intent, that they've clicked on your ad after seeing it on your feed. And that connects really closely with click-through rate and cost per click. So the click-through rate, CTR, and cost per click being CPC are two metrics that we look at quite closely. Click-through rate will show you if someone has actually clicked on your ad and gone through. So let's say that someone clicked on your ad and then they went to your landing page, that would be a click-through rate percentage. That's a percentage of people who saw your ad and chose to click through to it. I'll get into why click-through rate is really important on the next slide too. Cost per click is the number of people who, cost per click is the amount that it costs to click on your ad. So if you see that number growing, it usually means that your audience size may be a little bit smaller and it's like maybe there's more competitors in the business. So it's getting more expensive to actually get that click on your ad. Especially you'll see if you've been on Facebook for a long time, that cost per click is probably going up quite substantially as more competitors join in your particular industry. Results, super important. That's to see whether if you set up tracking properly, whether someone made a purchase, whether someone requested a demo, whatever your objective is, that will show up in the results, and that's what you'll be optimizing towards in your campaigns. CPA it differs depending on your like cost per acquisition. So let's say your CPA would be CPO if it's cost per order. It could be CPL if it's cost per lead, CPP, cost per purchase. And that one's really, really important to look at because it can help you understand whether your business is actually profitable or not. How much does it cost to actually get a result? Conversion rate, also something we look at, similar to click-through rate, something we look at for the ad level. Conversion rate is something we look at the landing page level. Are people actually converting once they've clicked through from your ad? Are they making it all the way to the checkout page and making a purchase? And then the last one is ad frequency. So ad frequency is actually how you can calculate the reach. So it's the number of times people have seen your ad in the past 7 days. So ad frequency is something that while it's not a main metric like click-through rate or cost per click, it's definitely something to keep an eye on and something you can set within that ads manager. Ad frequency, if it goes above, let's say 5 or 6, we usually recommend trying to broaden your audience or expand your audience by using different different audience tools. Just because if people are seeing your ad too many times, it can also kind of pull them away from wanting to make that purchase, or potentially they've seen your ad enough times. And if you're not seeing good results, it just shows you that maybe you want to divert your efforts to a different audience a little bit. A lot of different information there, but basically with measurement and optimization, it's really important to try different things, but also remember that when you are making adjustments, whether it's to improve your click-through rate or to improve your conversion rate, you also need to wait and give the platform time to optimize accordingly based on these. I recommend if you do make a large optimization, like adding a new creative or adding a new audience, try to give the platform a couple weeks to learn. You'll see even in the platform, it'll say learning in it to learn your audience and then optimize towards that. Just a tip on our end. Okay, so this page is super, super important. I want to argue that beyond tracking, it's probably the most important piece of content for Facebook ads specifically. And that's because if we go back to the beginning of the presentation, Facebook ads really is a push platform. It's something where you're pushing messaging to people that are not yet aware of your business, unless you're doing retargeting, but for prospecting purposes. And when you're pushing messaging to people that aren't necessarily aware of it, you may not know exactly what's going to work and what's not going to work. So testing different creative variants and testing different landing page variants is super important for the success of your particular Facebook campaign. You'll see on the left here, we have a diagram saying test, 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 and more. And there's 3 different components to it. There's one at the ad level. So testing 2 different components at the ad level, an A version and a B version, and see which one performs against each other over a couple of weeks. Does the ad have ad A have a stronger click-through rate? Does the ad B have a stronger click-through rate? And then use that to make an informed decision on what your next ad or your next creative test may be. So that's done at the ad level, and click-through rate is the main metric that you would want to look at to see whether that ad is performing. The next one is landing pages. So similar to testing your ads, a lot of people forget to test the actual landing pages themselves. The landing pages is once someone's clicked through the ad, you'll want to look at conversion rate. And if the conversion rate is higher on one page, for example, you send them to the home page of your website versus sending them to a particular product. And let's say the product has a higher conversion rate, that shows that people are more interested in going to that product page than going to that home page. And you may want to test different pages between that as well. Usually something like a blog post will not have as strong of a conversion rate as something like a product page, because the intent to purchase on a product page is going to be higher. So other things to consider that can help you, 1, define what your ads look like, but 2, define who your audience is as well, and whether you're targeting the right audience there too. The last one is welcome email. And while the first 2 you'll see are bigger, something you should focus on at the start, it's also important to look at the offline conversions too. So once someone has submitted a request, once someone has come through or made a purchase, what do you do after that? You want to ensure that you're still pulling in that user and you're making them a long-time user. So with a welcome email, that's a great way of A/B testing different opportunities there too. So do you want to send a welcome email with a promo disc code to pull them back in the platform? Do you want to send a welcome email just letting them know that you received their request and you'll reach out shortly? Other opportunities there to just further have a good user experience for your potential customer. You'll see on the right here, this is what we use as like the 5 stages to creative testing. So to start, you want to determine what that conversion that you want to improve is. You'll want to hypothesize what that change is, identify the different variables that you can test. So identify whether you want to test whether A worked better and you want to continue testing variations of A, or B worked better and you want to continue testing variations of B. Actually run that experiment. Like I mentioned, give it a few weeks. You're not going to see results in 1 week. It does take a bit longer than that. But then once you do have those results, use that in order to measure them and then determine your next improvement. It's something that is cyclical. That's why it's a circle. You want to constantly be looking at this every few weeks and making adjustments as a result. Now into the last slide here that I want to share with you guys is iOS 14 privacy statements. So as we kind of briefly talked about before this, Apple did announce that there were changes to iOS 14 in early or late April, sorry. And when they announced that, it basically means that Apple is now making it so that iOS users don't necessarily have to opt out of different tracking on their devices. They can opt into it. So if you download an app, they don't necessarily have to track and give that information to Apple or any users who are on Apple devices. That includes Facebook, and that's going to have a huge impact on Facebook, especially because that Facebook pixel is on a lot of sites, which allows Facebook to gather information, gather demographic information, as well as customer information about who you're trying to target here. So I know you mentioned, some of you on the call, how you've seen a slight decline in your performance. This could be a main contributing factor to that, because not only are people that you're tracking on iOS devices not able to be tracked as easily, but it's also shrunk audience sizes overall, especially retargeting audiences, because potentially the people that are going to your website are 50% on iOS devices, and maybe only 20% of those iOS devices are actually being tracked. Another factor is, while they may be coming through and they may be making a purchase or they may be requesting a demo, Facebook may not have that information because they can't report on them and they can't track on them. So it's important, especially during this transition and over the next couple of months, to cross-reference between what you're seeing on your organic side, what you're seeing when you actually do get a lead or you do get a purchase, compared to what Facebook is reporting on in platform. I have listed kind of the 4 main changes as a result of iOS 14 on Facebook specifically. So I'll run through them quickly. And if you have any other questions, there's also a link here that goes into them in more detail. First one is conversion events. So setting up conversion events. I know we spoke about how you want to create a custom conversion or a custom goal that your campaign optimizes towards. Before, you could create as many kind of conversion events as you wanted. You could have add to cart, you could have the checkout page, you could have the purchase page, you could have the blog view, as many as you want. But especially for bigger companies, this one's going to have a huge impact because you can only have 8. So you want to prioritize what really is the most important to your business. What is that goal that you want to optimize towards, and ensure that you're not only creating only 8 of them, but you're also prioritizing them appropriately within that aggregated event measurement. The second one is delayed reporting. So as I mentioned, you sometimes have to wait a few weeks to see results. You may have to wait a little bit longer with the iOS 14 changes coming out, because delayed reporting can occur up to 3 days. So let's say you go in, you don't see a purchase, but you know you had a purchase come in. Important to wait about 2 to 3 days, and you may see that purchase show up. So go back, look at your data, use that data to make informed decisions. It's one thing about digital marketing that's awesome, is that you actually have the opportunity to go back and use hard metrics to figure out what is it that actually is changing, what is it that people are clicking through on, what are they not necessarily registering with, and use that data to make informed decisions. So do that, but keep in mind there's a 72 kind of hour window that Facebook has told us about. The third one is domain verification requirement. And you'll see this is one that I've actually included in that setup process. And the reason for that is because Facebook now wants to verify whether the domain that you want to advertise on is actually owned by you or associated with you. And if you don't have that, or they feel like you may not have the right permission levels in order to advertise on behalf of that business, you can get restricted from advertising. So really important that when you are setting up your campaigns, or I know some of you are already advertising on Facebook, to go ahead and do that domain verification. That can happen in Business Manager under data sources. So you can look there, do that domain verification. It's really quick, and happy to help out. The fourth one, we already spoke about this a little bit, is just that audience and retargeting tool. Another reason why you may be seeing a decrease in kind of clicks on platform is that previously the conversion window or the attribution window between getting a lead or getting a click or any metric was 28 days to 30 days. So someone could view your ad and click on it within 28 days, or view on it and see it within 7. And then you would have that reported within the Facebook platform. But because of all of these iOS 14 changes coming out, they've now shrunk that attribution window to only 7 days. And as a result of that, you may see what used to be clicks over 28 days only come in for clicks on over 7 days. So that could be another explanation as to why you're seeing that. On one hand, it can suck, but on another hand, it's also a bit more accurate because Facebook can't kind of, at one point they were fabricating their numbers a little bit, because maybe someone over 28 days or a full month isn't actually that interested in your product. So it is nice, and it is a little bit more accurate using in-platform numbers now with that 7-day conversion window. But again, I'm going to wrap up here. This is just kind of an intro to Facebook ads. If you have any further questions, we'll talk about a few of them now, but you can also go to the digital help desk or reach out to us. Cool. So I'll pass it over to you, Lynn.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful for people as kind of an introduction. I know there's a lot, it's a whole kind of world on its own to learn about, but hopefully that helped to kind of get people started. So does anyone have any questions specific to their business or just in general about Facebook ads that they wanted to talk through? You can either type it in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask the question if you do have anything that you wanted to ask. I'll give people a minute for that. And in the meantime, I'm just going to put a link in the chat to that page on the help desk where you can submit a ticket. So if anyone does think of something afterwards, or once they start playing around with Facebook ads, you kind of get confused or run into any issues, you can submit a ticket and ask a specific question, and then someone can reach out to you and kind of walk you through getting started with that. And I did post a link in the chat as well to an article that kind of has screenshots and talks through creating a new campaign in Facebook ads. So that might be really helpful now that you kind of have the background to kind of go through step by step and do it yourself. But I'll put a link in.
We also shared the UTMs in the chat as well. Thanks, Amy. So if you guys are interested in what that piece of code looks like, that's exactly what it is. You can actually copy that directly into the tracking at the bottom at the ad level.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I think that article with the screenshots and the step-by-step mentions at the end, like how to use the UTM codes too. So that should hopefully help as people get started with that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Any questions before we wrap up today? Anyone want to just talk about their experience with Facebook ads or things that they had issues with?
Yes, Jess, you will have access to the recording after, so you're welcome to jump to the beginning of it.
Yeah, we'll email it out probably by Monday at the latest, and it'll have a written summary too of the presentation with like timestamps for the video for what section you can jump to for different topics. So hopefully that'll help if there's something specific you're looking for help on. Yeah, someone was just saying in the chat that since the iOS 14 update that the their client base went down. And it sounds like a couple of people have been experiencing that with kind of the drop in performance on ads since then. So that's, yeah, hopefully helpful to know, like, at least the reasoning for it and maybe some things you can do to deal with it.
For sure. I think one tip that we have, and again, Facebook, it really is a black box at the moment. It is very new, and Facebook will figure out a way to improve it. They've already started talking about different API integrations that I won't get into. But one thing that I think is really important when you are on Facebook is to house as much data within Facebook as possible. So if right now you're only focusing on those core audiences, the interests and the demographics, try uploading a customer list if you have it, or try creating a lookalike off of your Facebook page or your Instagram page. And those are different opportunities that the information will be housed in Facebook. So Facebook will be able to track it easier.
For the lookalike audiences, is there a minimum number of emails that you need in order to like upload them and do a lookalike audience?
Yeah, it can vary. We usually like to say upload 1,000. It can populate under 1,000 and populate over time, but it won't be necessarily ready to serve in full until you get about 1,000 names. And the reason why we say 1,000 and the platform says 1,000 is because it has to match it to a Facebook profile. So potentially, let's say 20% of those emails don't actually match to a profile. It'll be harder for Facebook to get a big enough sample size to target those people.
Right. Okay. So it's still worth trying if you have less than that, but that would be kind of the ideal number to shoot for.
Exactly. And if you are basing it on, for example, you want to set up like web visitors for a retargeting campaign, you can actually choose that as an option within that audience manager and just let it populate over time. We'll do it a lot of the time with our clients. If we know that we want to be running a retargeting campaign to people that have been to the website before, we'll actually set up that audience list weeks before we use it. So it has time to populate. And then again, with more data, more accuracy.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. One of the other things I was going to ask was when you're talking about the A/B testing, like having two different creatives that you're kind of comparing against each other and seeing which performs the best. Mm-hmm. Do you have any like suggestions or examples of specific things within the ad that you might want to try changing or like test out different versions of?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. One thing that we usually like to say is test out different layouts of the ad and different concepts specifically. So you may want to try one that's like text only and it's just massive and it has text. Another one you may want to try that's more lifestyle. It has imagery in the background, less text. Another one that you might want a combination of both, of course, but you can also run different illustrations versus using stock imagery. That's a really good one that we like to test a lot. And then from there, also different placements of the actual text itself. So you could try it in the top corner, you could try it in the bottom, you could try it in the middle, you could try it with the logo, without the logo. I mean, I could go on for hours, but there's also really good information in the digital help desk on that. And pretty much anywhere, whether it's copy or creative related that you can test it, and then take advantage of those different placements too.
Yeah. And I guess just being kind of strategic with the things that you're changing so that like a lot of it is consistent, but you're just changing one thing so that you actually know what's making the difference.
Exactly. Yes. You'll want to test it over a couple of weeks with one minor change and then keep iterating from there. Mm-hmm. And one thing, just a tip that we do at S&G is if we do choose to change the creative, we won't necessarily change that primary text or that description in the top or the headline or the call to action in the bottom. We'll just change the image. And that way it's easier for us to tell if someone converted on that ad weeks after we made those changes, it's likely that the image itself is what's actually resonating with the customer. And then from there, iterate and try changing just the headline on your ads and keeping creative the same. So minor adjustments can go a really long way. And also time is something that's really important with this platform.
Perfect. Yeah, that should be helpful for people. And I know a lot of it sounds like is just kind of playing around with it, trying different things, but also paying attention and looking at the analytics and doing that tracking so that you kind of have a systematic approach to it and can try different things and learn over time what's working and what's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You'll never get it right the first time. That's something that we like to drive home. It's like, it's always going to be an iterative process. There's always going to be room to improve. So if your ad doesn't work at first, it's not you. Just try the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably helpful advice as people start playing around with it if they haven't been doing Facebook ads before. Just, yeah, knowing that it's a bit of a long-term thing and that it's not going to work perfectly right away.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Were there any other last minute questions before we wrap up? If not, I did put the link in the chat. If you think of something after and you want to submit a question through the help desk and connect with one of the experts, if there's something that's very specific to your business, or like I said, if you start playing around in Facebook ads and need some extra help, definitely feel free to reach out or browse the resource library on the help desk too. There are a lot of articles that kind of walk you through different things specific to Facebook ads on there as well. All right, so we will be sending the email out in the next couple of days with the recording so everyone can take a look at that, and there's the written summary. So if you have any sections that you wanted to kind of go back to and revisit in more depth, then by all means. But yeah, thank you so much, Nat. That was a great introduction to Facebook ads.